The message arrived on a Tuesday, which felt disappointing to James Harris. He had always imagined that the end of the world would happen on a stormy night or a dramatic Sunday morning. Instead, it was a cloudy, boring Tuesday. He was sitting in the command chair on the bridge of the UEC Defiance, sipping cold coffee. The silence of the bridge was heavy, broken only by the low hum of the computers. Suddenly the main screen flickered. The star map of the Sol system vanished, replaced by a cold blue symbol. It was a triangle with a circle inside it. Then the voice came through the speakers. It was not a human voice. It sounded like metal grinding against glass, translated into English by the ship's computer. "You are the species known as human," the voice said. It was a statement, not a question. "This sector has been designated for resource requisition. Your civilization is classified as Type C. You have 1 standard week to evacuate this star system. After that time, we will begin extraction. Resistance is illogical and will result in immediate termination." James sat up straight, his coffee forgotten. He looked at the main tactical display. "Emily, who is that? Where is the signal coming from?" Lieutenant Emily Rollins was typing furiously at her station. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, her eyes wide. "I am trying to track it, Commander," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "It is not coming from a ship in orbit. It is coming from the edge of the system. Wait, I am detecting a mass signature. It is huge." James walked over to her station. "How huge?" "Bigger than anything we have ever built," Emily whispered. "It is a fleet. I count 10,000 ships, maybe more." James felt a cold chill run down his spine. 10,000 ships. The entire United Fleet of Earth consisted of maybe 50 warships. They were miners and explorers, not soldiers. They had fought small skirmishes with pirates before, but this was an empire. The name on the signal identified them as the Ascendancy. They didn't even see Earth as an enemy. To them, Earth was just a rock with some annoying bugs on it. "Can we talk to them?" James asked. "I tried," Emily said. They cut the link. The message was a recording. "They are not interested in conversation." The bridge crew was silent. Everyone looked at James. He was the commander. He was supposed to have a plan. But James knew that there was no plan for this. If the Ascendancy wanted Earth, they could take it. Human missiles would probably bounce off their shields like raindrops. "We need to get the government involved," James said finally. "And we need to call Dr. Moore. Tell him to come to the comms room immediately." "Dr. Moore. Tell him to come to the comms room immediately." David Moore was the smartest man James knew. He was also the craziest. While the rest of the world was looking up at the stars with telescopes, David was looking down into the dirt. He had spent the last 10 years working on a project called The Wall. It was a technology found buried deep under the surface of the moon. No one knew who put it there, but David believed it was a weapon left behind for humans to find. An hour later, the secure line to the lunar base connected. David Moore's face appeared on the screen in James's office. The scientist looked messy. His hair was sticking up, and he had dark circles under his eyes, but he was smiling. "Did you see the message, James?" David asked, his voice high with excitement. "I saw it," James said. "We're going to die in a week, David. 10,000 ships are sitting at the edge of our solar system. Why are you smiling?" "Because this is it, James," David said. "The test run. I told them the machine was ready, but they didn't believe me. They said it was too dangerous, but now we have no choice." "What are you talking about?" James asked. "What machine?" "The border mechanism," David said. "The device under the moon. It is not a shield. It does not block energy or matter. It blocks location. Speak English, David," James said, rubbing his temples. David took a deep breath. James said, rubbing his temples, "Imagine you are looking at a map of the world. If you erase a city from the map, the city is still there, right? But if no one knows where it is, they can't go there. They can't attack it. They can't even see it. The mechanism does that to reality. It cuts a section of space off from the rest of the universe. It severs the coordinates. James stared at the screen. You want to hide the solar system? I want to delete us from their GPS, David corrected. But there is a catch. To do it, we have to use the entire energy output of the sun for about 10 seconds, and we have to do it when they cross the heliosphere. We need them to be close enough to get caught in the effect. James walked to the window of his office. He looked out at the earth, a beautiful blue marble floating in the dark. He thought about the cities, the forests, the people. The Ascendancy didn't care about any of that. They just wanted the resources. They would strip the planet and kill everyone without a second thought. If this fails, James said quietly, we waste our energy and they destroy us. If it works, David said, leaning closer to the camera, they won't just leave, they will vanish. And James, the energy reading, it won't just be a shield. It will be a statement. James turned back to the screen. Do it. Activate the mechanism. But David, James turned back to the screen. Do it. David, if you blow up the sun, I will never forgive you. David laughed. Understood. Defiance out. The next 6 days were a nightmare of preparation. The United Earth Coalition debated surrender, but James and David convinced them that fighting back was the only option. There was nowhere to run. The fleet on the edge of the system did not move. They just waited, like wolves circling a sheep. Their arrogance was their weakness. They did not send scouts. They did not try to communicate again. They simply assumed that Earth was powerless. On the bridge of the Defiance, the tension was so thick you could feel it. Emily sat at her station, her hands hovering over the controls. James stood in the center of the room, his heart beating like a drum. Report, James ordered. The Ascendancy fleet is moving, Emily said. They are entering the heliosphere. They are coming in fast. Time to intercept. 3 minutes. They are launching their first wave of drones. James watched the screen. Red dots filled the display. The enemy ships were beautiful in a terrifying way. They were long silver needles that gleamed in the starlight. They moved with perfect precision. There was no chaos in their formation, only cold, hard logic. Contact Dr. Moore, James said. Tell him it is showtime. The channel opened. I see them. David's voice came over the speaker. He sounded breathless. The mechanism is primed. We are tapping into the solar array now. James, look at the sun. James looked at the view screen that showed the sun. Usually, it was a bright burning star. But suddenly, it flared. A pulse of invisible light shot out from the center of the star, moving faster than the speed of light. It washed over the Defiance, making the ship shudder. What is happening? Emily shouted. Sensors are going crazy. Hold on, James yelled, grabbing the arm of his chair. The pulse hit the Ascendancy fleet. For a second, James expected an explosion. He expected fire and debris. But that is not what happened. The silver needles of the enemy fleet did not blow up. They stopped moving. Every single ship, from the massive dreadnoughts to the small fighter drones, froze in place. Their engines were still running. Their weapons were still charged. But they were going nowhere. It was as if someone had pressed the pause button on the universe. Then, the color began to drain from them. The shiny silver hulls turned dull, then gray. The lights on the ships flickered and died. The red glow of their engines vanished. Emily, report, James said, standing up. Did we destroy them? Emily was staring at her screen, her mouth open. No, Commander, she whispered. They are still there. Physically, they are present. But the computer can't find them. The navigation system says that sector of space is empty. It is reading 0 mass, 0 energy, 0 existence. David's voice came over the comms again, sounding tired but triumphant. We did it, James. We edited the map. To the rest of the galaxy, that fleet is gone. They're trapped in a bubble of nowhere. They are still there, but they are disconnected from us. They can't see us, and we can't touch them, but they can't move forward, and they can't go back. James walked closer to the main screen. He looked at the thousands of gray ships hanging in the darkness, frozen in time. They were like statues in a graveyard. The silence on the bridge was absolute. The crew was looking at the most powerful fleet the galaxy had ever seen, and it was helpless. "Are they alive?" James asked. "Technically, yes," David replied. "Time is passing for them, but very slowly. They are trapped in a loop. They had one chance to cross Earth's border, and now they are never leaving." James let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. The fear was gone, replaced by a strange feeling of awe. Humanity had just used a weapon they didn't fully understand to erase an empire's finest fleet. They had crossed a line themselves. They were no longer just survivors. They were the ones who held the power to unmake reality. "Commander," Emily said, her voice trembling slightly, "I am picking up a transmission. It is coming from inside the bubble." "Play it," James said. A sound filled the bridge. It was not words. It was a scream. A million voices crying out at once, distorted by the barrier between their space and Earth's. It was the sound of pure terror. The Ascendancy was afraid. James looked at the frozen gray ships and felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. "Turn it off, Emily," he said quietly. "Let them sit in the dark. We have work to do." The Defiance floated silently next to the graveyard of the enemy fleet. The war was over before it had truly begun. But as James looked out at the stars, he knew that the galaxy would notice this silence. And when they did, they would realize that Earth was not a planet to be trifled with. The bridge of the UEC Defiance was quieter than it had ever been. It was not the peaceful silence of sleep, but the heavy, suffocating silence of a graveyard. James Harris stood with his hands clasped behind his back, staring at the main view screen. There, floating in the darkness of space, was the Ascendancy fleet. Thousands of massive ships, looming like mountains of steel, were completely still. They looked like statues. Their lights were out. Their engines were cold. The terrifying red glow that had signaled their power was gone. Now, they were just gray shapes against the black void. "Emily, give me a status report," James said. His voice sounded flat, even to his own ears. Lieutenant Emily Rollins did not look away from her console. Her fingers moved over the controls, but she was shaking her head in disbelief. "It is the same as an hour ago, Commander. And the hour before that, life support on those ships is still functioning. They have power, but they are not moving. It is like time has stopped for them." James walked closer to the screen. "Are they scanning us? Are they trying to shoot?" "No," Emily said. "Their sensors are active, but they are not sending any data back to their commanders. It is like the sensors are blind. They are looking right at us, but they cannot see us." The channel to the moon base buzzed, and Dr. David Moore's face appeared on the screen. He looked exhausted, but his eyes were bright with a mix of fear and excitement. "James, are you seeing this?" David asked. "It is beautiful, isn't it? The ultimate freeze." "Is it permanent?" James asked. He wanted to know if the enemy was just paused, or if they were gone forever. "Theoretically, it is permanent," David explained. "The border mechanism severed the connection between that pocket of space and the rest of the galaxy. To us, they exist. To the universe, they have been deleted. They are in a bubble of their own time. To them, 1 second might feel like a year. Or they might be frozen in a single thought forever." James looked at the flagship, the massive vessel that had threatened to destroy Earth only hours ago. "Can we communicate with them?" "I would not recommend it," David said quickly. "The link is unstable. If we try to talk to them, we might break the bubble. And if we break the bubble, 10,000 angry warships will suddenly wake up and realize we tricked them." "Understood," James said. "Keep the mechanism running. Do not let it fail." "You worry too much, James," David said with a weak smile. "The machine is using the sun's energy. It will run until the sun burns out. Now, I need to analyze the data. We are learning so much from just watching them." The screen went dark. James turned back to his crew. The atmosphere on the ship was strange. They had won. They should be celebrating. There should be cheering, champagne, and relief. But no one was cheering. They were staring at the enemy fleet with a mix of horror and awe. They realized that humanity had just done something impossible. They had rewritten the laws of physics. "Commander," a young officer named Michael said from the back of the room, "my sister is on a colony ship near Mars. She says she had a nightmare. She dreamt she was buried alive in the dark." James nodded slowly. "We all feel it, Michael. We are connected to them now. The mechanism doesn't just cut them off, it tethers them to us. We can feel their confusion." Over the next few days, the situation became even stranger. The Ascendancy fleet did not move, but the dreams got worse. People all over Earth reported having the same dream. They were floating in a gray void, unable to move, screaming for help that would never come. It was the collective consciousness of the alien fleet bleeding into the human mind. James sat in his quarters trying to sleep, but he closed his eyes and saw the same gray void. He felt the coldness of space and the panic of being trapped. He sat up and splashed water on his face. He knew that this was the price of their survival. They had not just defeated an enemy. They had become their prison. On the third day, Emily called James to the bridge. "Commander, you need to see this," she said. James ran to the bridge. "What is it? Did they move?" "No," Emily said. "But look at the visual sensors. We adjusted the filters to see residual energy traces." James looked at the screen. The image of the gray ships changed. Now he could see a faint glowing aura around each ship. It was a soft blue light. "What am I looking at?" James asked. "It is fear," David said, having joined the channel again without announcement. "That blue light is psychic energy. The aliens are terrified. They are awake in there, James. They are conscious, but their bodies won't move. They are trapped in a frozen moment of pure terror." Toriv ran down his spine. He looked at the blue auras and realized that inside those metal hulls, millions of beings were screaming. "Can we help them?" James asked. "Can we end it?" "We could," David said. "We could collapse the bubble and let them free, but they will attack immediately. Or we could cut their life support. But that would be genocide." James stared at the fleet. He remembered the message they had sent. Resistance is illogical. They had come to destroy Earth without mercy. Now they were at humanity's mercy. "Don't cut their support," James said firmly. "But don't let them go. Let them sit there. Let the galaxy see what happens when you threaten us." But there was a problem. The galaxy did not see it yet. The Ascendancy had sent a fleet, but the rest of the Empire did not know what had happened. James knew they would send more ships to investigate when this fleet stopped reporting in. "We need to prepare," James told his crew. "They will come looking for their friends. We need to be ready for the next wave." Suddenly, the ship shuddered. The lights flickered and dimmed. The blue auras on the screen flashed brightly. "Report," James shouted, grabbing the console to steady himself. "The bubble is reacting," Emily yelled. "There's a surge of energy from the Ascendancy flagship. They are trying to detonate their warp core. They are trying to blow themselves up to break the trap." On the screen, the center of the flagship began to glow white-hot. A massive explosion was building up. If a ship that size exploded inside the bubble, the shockwave might ripple out and damage the solar system. "David," James shouted into the comms. "They are going to blow! Stop them!" "I see it," David shouted back. "I am trying to lock the timeline down. Hold on." The ship shook violently. Alarms blared. James watched as the explosion started to expand, but then it stopped. The white fire froze in midair, just like the ship's. The explosion was caught in the same time lock. The fire hung there, beautiful and deadly. like a sculpture of destruction. David breathed heavily over the comms. I caught it. I froze the explosion too. It is stuck in time just like they are. James let out a long breath. He looked at the frozen explosion on the screen. It was a terrifying sight. Humanity had stopped not just a fleet, but the very act of destruction itself. Is the bubble stable now? James asked. Yes, David said. It is actually stronger. The energy from their attempted detonation just fed the barrier. They are trapped even tighter now. James looked around the bridge. His crew was pale, but they were standing tall. They had looked into the face of annihilation and stopped it cold. "Commander," Emily said softly, "we just did the impossible. We stopped time." James nodded. "Yes, we did. And now, the rest of the galaxy knows that we are not just another resource to be harvested. We are the monsters in the dark." He looked back at the frozen fleet. The alien ships hung there, silent and gray. Trapped in a moment, they would never escape. They had crossed Earth's border once. Now, they were part of the scenery. James knew that this was only the beginning. The war was not over, but the rules had changed. Humanity was no longer the prey. They were the keepers of the cage. A week passed since the Great Freezing, but life on the UEC Defiance had not returned to normal. How could it? Outside the windows, the greatest armada ever assembled floated like dust in a sunbeam, motionless and gray. The crew did not look at the stars anymore. They looked at the graveyard. It was a constant reminder that reality was fragile. James Harris was finding it hard to sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he did not dream of Earth or his family. He dreamed of cold metal and silence. He dreamed of waking up and not being able to move his fingers. He was feeling what the aliens felt. The connection was getting stronger. He walked onto the bridge early in the morning shift. The lights were dim to save energy, even though the power systems were fine. It just felt wrong to have bright, happy lights when a tomb of 10,000 ships was floating outside. "Good morning, Commander," Emily Rollins said. She looked tired. Her eyes were red, and she was drinking a cup of strong coffee. "No changes. They are still frozen. The explosion on the flagship is still expanding, but so slowly that it looks like a statue." "Any dreams?" James asked gently. Emily nodded. "I was screaming in a language I don't speak," she said. "I was trying to push a button that wasn't there. It was panic, Commander. Pure, cold panic. It's exhausting." The entire ship was exhausted. The entire ship was exhausted. It was not just the Defiance. Reports were coming in from all over Earth. People were having headaches. People were waking up crying. The billions of minds trapped in the alien fleet were reaching out, and humanity was the only thing they could touch. It was a noise that could not be heard, but it was felt in the bones. "Put Dr. Pratt's Moore on the screen," James said. David Moore appeared. He looked manic. His hair was wild and he had papers scattered all over his desk. "James, you have to see the data streams. The psychic energy is off the charts. The Ascendancy is terrified. They are trying to figure out where they went, but their brains can't process it." "Can we block it?" James asked. "My crew is tired, David. The people on Earth are scared." "We can't block it without turning off the mechanism," David said. "And if we turn it off, they wake up. We have to endure it." "But James, think about what we are learning. Because they are trapped and their minds are open, we are downloading their databases. We know everything about them now." James leaned forward. "Everything? Their ship layouts, their weapon codes, their homeworld coordinates, their history?" David said quickly. "We are drinking from a fire hose of information. We know where their families live. We know where their families live. We know what they eat. We know their fears." This changed everything. Humanity had not just stopped an army. They had captured a library. But the cost was high. Every human on Earth was carrying the mental weight of 1,000,000 alien prisoners. Suddenly, the tactical console beeped. A red light flashed. "Commander," Emily shouted, "we have a signal. It is coming from outside the solar system. It is not from the frozen fleet." James rushed to her station. "Is it another fleet?" "No. Emily said, listening to the audio feed. It is a distress call, but it is weird. It is not from the Ascendancy. It is from someone else. The voice that came over the speakers was different from the grinding metal voice of the Ascendancy. This voice was wet, gurgling, and deep. Is anyone there? This is Explorer Vrak of the Galactic Council. We detected a massive energy spike in this sector. We are responding to the Ascendancy's call for reinforcements. Please respond. James looked at the screen. A single ship appeared on the edge of the sensor range. It was small, sleek, and painted a bright yellow to show it was neutral. It was a council ship. They were the police of the galaxy. They had come to see why the Ascendancy fleet had gone silent. They are looking for their friends, James said. If they see the frozen fleet, they will panic. Or worse, they will try to break the seal to save them. We have to talk to them, Emily said. James nodded. Open a channel. Keep the video off for now. Just audio. This is Commander James Harris of the Earthship Defiance, James said. State your business in the Sol system. The voice on the other end sounded confused. Earth? You are the Type C civilization? We are looking for the Ascendancy 4th Fleet. They were scheduled to pacify your system. They have stopped transmitting. Where are they? James looked out the window at the gray shapes. They are here, James said, but they are not available right now. Explain, the alien Vrak demanded. James thought about how to explain it. How do you tell a galactic police officer that you deleted a fleet from reality? They crossed our border. We defended ourselves. They are detained. Detained? Rook scoffed. By a Type C civilization? That is impossible. The Ascendancy has dreadnoughts. You have mining ships. Do not lie to the Council. Surrender immediately, or we will be forced to report this obstruction. James smiled humorlessly. You want to see them? Fine. Emily, send a visual feed. But filter it. I want them to see the ships, but I don't want them to see the time distortion yet. The image was sent to the alien ship. For a long moment, there was silence on the channel. Then Rock spoke again, but his voice was shaking. What? What is this? Why are they not moving? Why are they gray? I am reading life signs, but no movement. What have you monsters done? We told you, James said. They crossed our border. Now they are part of the view. They are dead, Rock screamed. You killed them. This is a crime against the galaxy. The Council will destroy you for this. Do you know who you are messing with? Actually, James said calmly, they are not dead. Listen closely, Rock. Can you hear them? James signaled to Emily. She boosted the psychic feedback that the ship was feeling and pushed it through the radio waves. It was a sound that could not be heard by ears, but it was a feeling of pure, endless scream. The alien ship on the sensors shuddered. Its engines flared, and it began to back away rapidly. What is that noise? Vroke yelled. Turn it off. It feels like dying. It feels like the void. Stop it. That is them screaming, James said, his voice hard as steel. That is the sound of the Ascendancy realizing they are powerless. We are not killing them, Vrak. We are keeping them forever. If you come any closer, you will join them. The yellow ship did not hesitate. It turned around, firing its engines to full power. It fled so fast that its sensors left a trail of ion dust. They were terrified. They had come to check on a bully, and they found a predator. James watched the alien ship disappear into the darkness. Let them run, he said. Let them tell the Council what happened here. David, James said into the comms. Did you record that? Every second, David said. The fear in that alien's voice. That is going to be our new shield. We don't need guns, James. We just need a reputation. James looked at the frozen fleet again. The blue aura of fear was pulsing slowly. It was a heartbeat of terror that powered the solar system. Humanity had changed. A week ago, they were afraid of the dark. Now, they were the monsters in the dark, and the rest of the galaxy was just starting to realize it. Set a course for the inner system, James ordered. We need to rest. The nightmare is just beginning. The Defiance turned away from the graveyard and headed back toward Earth. The frozen fleet watched them go with dead eyes, trapped in a second that would never end. The border had been crossed, and there was no going back. The galaxy did not stay silent for long. The escape of the Council ship, the one belonging to Vrock, had sent ripples through the stars like a stone thrown into a pond. The Ascendancy was furious, but the Council was terrified. They had heard the scream. They had felt the cold void in the transmission. They knew that something impossible had happened in the Sol system. James Harris stood on the bridge of the UEC Defiance, looking at a new star map. The red dots of enemy ships were gathering again, but this time they were different. They were staying far away. They were huddled at the very edge of sensor range, like children afraid to step into a dark basement. "They are not moving in," Emily Rollins said. She sounded almost disappointed. "They have been there for 3 days, just watching." "They are afraid," James said. "They saw what we did to the First Fleet. They don't know if it was a weapon or a spell or just pure luck. They are hesitating." Dr. David Moore appeared on the main screen. He looked better than he had in weeks. The dark circles under his eyes were gone, replaced by a sharp, intense focus. "James, we have finished analyzing the data we pulled from the trapped fleet. We know how their sensors work. We know their communication frequencies. We know exactly what scares them." "Can we use that?" James asked. "Yes," David said. "The border mechanism is stable. The First Fleet is still frozen, and their psychic energy is like a battery. We can use that energy. We don't need to shoot bullets at the new fleet. We can shoot their fear back at them." James nodded. "Show me what you have." David typed a command on his end. On the bridge of the Defiance, a new console lit up. It was labeled the Tether. "During the last week," David explained, "humanity has been hearing the dreams of the trapped aliens. It was a side effect of the mechanism. But I have found a way to control that connection. We can stop the bleeding into our minds, and instead, project it outward. We can make the new fleet feel exactly what the trapped fleet is feeling." "Will it hurt them?" Emily asked. "It will break them," David said simply. "Fear is a powerful weapon, Emily, especially the fear of being erased from existence." James looked out at the distant sensors. The Ascendancy had sent a second fleet, smaller this time, mostly science vessels and fast cruisers. They were there to investigate, to find out what happened to the dreadnoughts. They were not prepared for a psychological attack. "Bring us within range," James ordered. "Let's introduce ourselves." The Defiance moved silently through the void. As they approached the edge of the solar system, the alien ships began to scatter. They tried to back away, but they were too slow. The Defiance was faster now, powered by the secrets they had stolen from the frozen ships. "Hold position here," James said. "Activate the tether." Emily pressed the button. For a moment nothing happened. Then the view screen flickered. The stars seemed to twist and warp. The alien ships on the screen stopped their orderly retreat. They began to spin. "Report," James said. "Their systems are failing," Emily said, her eyes glued to the data. "But it's not a virus. Their crews are panicking. I am picking up open channels. They are screaming." James listened to the audio feed. It was chaos. The alien captains were shouting about ghosts. They were seeing the gray void. They were feeling the cold of the stasis field. The tether was plugging their minds directly into the nightmare of the First Fleet. One of the science vessels turned its weapons on itself. The crew was so terrified that they chose destruction over the fear of the unknown. Another ship simply powered down and drifted. The crew curled up in the corners of their ship, paralyzed by dread. "Tell them to leave," James said. "Open a channel." "This is the commander of the Defiance." James's voice boomed across space, overriding the alien screams. "You came to our door looking for a fight. You found a cage. The fleet you came to find is still here. They are screaming, and you can hear them. Go back. Tell your masters that the Sol system is closed. Tell them that Earth is not a place to conquer. It is a place to lose yourself." The effect was immediate. The remaining ships did not try to fight. They did not try to negotiate. They turned their engines to maximum and fled. They ran away so fast that some of them collided with each other in their panic. They abandoned their research, they abandoned their dignity, and they just ran. The silence returned to the bridge. "Did we win?" Emily asked quietly. James looked at the empty space where the enemy had been. "We didn't just win, Emily. We made a legend." Over the next few weeks, the galaxy changed. The signal of the battle, the psychic scream of the ascendancy, had traveled far. Trade routes near Earth were abandoned. Captains told stories about the ghost sector where ships went to die. The ascendancy stopped all operations in this arm of the galaxy. They declared the Sol system a forbidden zone. Humanity was safe. But they were changed. The people of Earth were no longer the same. They had touched the mind of the enemy and felt their fear. It made humans stronger. It made them colder. They knew that the universe was a dangerous place, but they also knew that they were the most dangerous thing in it. David Moore called James one evening. "I have good news and bad news, James." "Give me the bad news first," James said. "The trapped fleet is still there. They are not going anywhere. We are stuck guarding a graveyard." "And the good news? The energy we are getting from them is infinite," David said. "We don't need oil or gas anymore. We have the power of a sun and the fear of a god. We can build bigger ships. We can build faster ships. We can build faster ships. We can go anywhere we want." James looked out the window of his office. He could see the moon, and beyond it, the faint, gray shape of the frozen Ascendancy fleet. It was a constant reminder of the line they had crossed. "We shouldn't stay here," James said softly. "We have shown them that we can defend our home. Now, we need to show them what happens when we leave it." "Are you suggesting what I think you are suggesting?" David asked. "Yes," James said. "Prepare the fleet. We are going to go out there. We are going to find the Ascendancy. We are going to find the Council. And we are going to ask them why they thought they could mess with Earth." James ended the call. He stood up and straightened his uniform. The days of hiding were over. The days of fear were over. Humanity had been tested, and they had not broken. They had become the thing that goes bump in the night. He walked back onto the bridge. The crew looked at him with anticipation. They could feel the change in the air. The Defiance was no longer just a guardian. It was a predator. "Set a course for the nearest Ascendancy outpost," James ordered. "Commander," Emily said, a smile touching her lips. "Are we going to attack?" "No," James said, looking at the stars. "We are going to introduce ourselves, properly this time." The engines of the Defiance roared to life, pushing the ship away from the safety of the solar system. Behind them, the frozen fleet hung in the dark, a silent monument to the day Earth stopped being a victim. Ahead lay the galaxy, waiting and unaware that the monsters had left their cage. 5 years had passed since the day the sky filled with gray statues. The Sol system was no longer just a home for humanity. It was a fortress. Around the orbit of Neptune, massive shipyards had been built. They did not look like the space stations of the past. They were dark, jagged shapes, built from the same technology that had trapped the Ascendancy fleet. James Harris, now an admiral, stood on the bridge of the UEC Defiance. The ship had been retrofitted. It was faster, stronger, and carried a new kind of weapon. The crew was older, sharper, and their eyes held a look that made other species look away. They had spent 5 years guarding a graveyard of terrified aliens, and it had changed them. "Report," James said. His voice was calm, like the quiet before a storm. Emily Rollins, now as captain, stood at the tactical station. "All systems are green, Admiral. The fleet is ready. We have 100 ships. They are all equipped with the tether drives." And the Home Guard? James asked. Dr. Moore has the border mechanism running at full power, Emily replied. The frozen fleet is still there. They act as a permanent warning sign. No one has come within 3 light years of Earth in 2 years. The galaxy is afraid of us, James. Good, James said. Fear keeps them alive. But we are not staying here anymore. The solar system had become a cage, a safe cage, but a cage nonetheless. Humanity had learned the secrets of the ascendancy from the trapped minds. They had learned about the Galactic Council, the trade routes, and the thousands of other worlds out there. They knew that while the ascendancy was scared, there were others who might try to test them. And humanity was done with being tested. Open a channel to the fleet, James ordered. The screen flickered, showing the faces of captains on the other 100 ships. They waited for his words. People of Earth, James began. For 5 years, we have looked at the enemy we froze. We have felt their fear. We used their technology to build a new future. But we cannot hide behind the moon forever. The universe is vast, and it is full of wolves. We have become the biggest wolf of all. Today, we leave the solar system. We are not going as explorers. We are not going as diplomats. We are going to show the galaxy that the border they crossed once has now moved to their doorstep. The ships cheered. It was not a cheer of joy, but a growl of anticipation. Engage tether drives, James ordered. Take us to the Ascendancy outpost at Proxima Centauri. The Defiance shuddered. The stars outside stretched into lines of light, but not like normal warp speed. The tether drive bent space by ignoring it. 1 second they were in Earth's orbit, and the next they were floating in the dark sky above a red planet. Proxima Centauri was an Ascendancy mining colony. It was a busy place, full of cargo ships and small defense platforms. They had no idea what was coming. The alarm sirens on the colony began to wail. The Ascendancy sensors picked up the human fleet, but they couldn't believe it. To them, the human ships appeared as shadows, flickering in and out of existence. Admiral, Emily said, they are hailing us. It is the governor of the colony. Put him on. A trembling alien face appeared on the screen. He looked different from the soldiers in the frozen fleet. He was soft, wearing robes of silk. This is a restricted zone, the governor stammered. You have no authority here. Identify yourselves immediately. James stepped forward into the light. I am Admiral Harris of the United Earth Coalition. You know who we are. The governor turned pale. The ghosts of Saul? You left your graveyard? Why? We're expanding our territory, James said simply. Surrender your colony and your ships. If you resist, we will not freeze you. We will delete you. The governor laughed nervously, trying to be brave. You are bluffing. You are just primitive humans. You got lucky once. We have orbital defenses. Fire them, James said to Emily. Let's see what happens. The colony opened fire. Massive red lasers shot out from the defense platforms, aiming directly at the Defiance. But the lasers never hit. They curved around the ship, sliding off like water off a duck's back. The tether drive created a bubble of reality around the human ship that the Ascendancy weapons could not penetrate. Your turn, James said. Emily didn't need to give a complex order. She tapped one button. The Defiance fired a single, small projectile. It was a fear bomb. It didn't explode with fire. It exploded with the psychic energy stored from the trapped fleet. When the bomb hit the main defense platform, a wave of invisible terror washed over the colony. On the screen, James watched the alien crews collapse. They weren't hurt physically, but their minds shut down. The sheer weight of the fear from 10,000 trapped souls crashed into them all at once. The colony went dark. The ships stopped moving. The governor on the screen slumped over in his chair, unconscious. Target disabled, Emily said quietly. The rest of the system is surrendering. They are begging us not to use the weapon again. James looked at the red planet below. It was theirs now. Just like that. Secure the colony, James ordered. Take their resources, absorb their databases, and send a message to the Ascendancy High Command. Tell them we are coming for the rest next. The operation at Proxima Centauri was the first of many. Over the next year, human ships moved from star to star. They didn't destroy everything. They didn't kill billions. They just showed up, unleashed a hint of the nightmare they controlled, and took control. The reputation of the Ghost Fleet of Sol spread faster than light. Empires that had ruled for thousands of years bowed down to humanity. They offered tribute. They offered slaves. They offered technology. They just wanted the nightmare to stay away. A year later, James stood on the bridge of a new ship, the UEC Vengeance. They were orbiting a planet that belonged to the Galactic Council. This was the center of power in the galaxy. Emily stood beside him. "The Council is ready to talk," she said. "They have sent a representative. It is a High Elder. He says he wants to negotiate a peace treaty." "Peace?" James asked. "We were never at war. They just assumed they owned us." James walked to the main airlock. The Council ship had docked, and the representative was walking on to the Vengeance. James waited in the hallway with 2 guards. The door opened, and a tall, thin creature walked in. It wore elaborate robes and carried a staff of office. The Elder looked at James, then at the guards, and swallowed hard. The Elder could feel it. Even here, hundreds of light years from Earth, the psychic hum of the trapped fleet followed the human ships. "Welcome," James said. He did not bow. He did not smile. "Elder James," the alien said, his voice shaking. "The Council recognizes the sovereignty of Earth. We wish to discuss borders. We wish to ensure that your fleet does not enter our core systems." James looked at the alien. He remembered the message they had sent 5 years ago. "You have 1 week to evacuate." He remembered the arrogance. He remembered the fear he had felt when he saw the first fleet. "There are no borders anymore," James said. "Not for us. The galaxy is ours. You can keep your planets. You can keep your trade routes. But you will pay a tax. Not in money, in information. And you will never, ever threaten a human world again." The Elder nodded quickly. Yes, of course. The Council agrees. We just want the fear to stop. Please, tell us the frozen fleet. Will they ever be released?" James smiled. It was a cold smile. "They are where they belong. They crossed a line they shouldn't have. As long as we exist, they will stay there. A reminder of what happens when you underestimate Earth." The Elder left quickly, happy to escape with his life. James turned and walked back to the bridge. He looked out at the stars. Thousands of stars, thousands of worlds. Humanity had crossed Earth's border once, and the fleet that had come to destroy them had vanished. Now, humanity was the storm that moved through the galaxy. They were no longer the hidden civilization on the blue marble. They were the masters of the dark. They had taken the horror that was visited upon them and turned it into a crown. "Set a course for the next sector," James said, sitting in his command chair. "We have a lot of galaxy to see." The stars blurred as the engines roared. The UEC Vengeance shot forward, leaving the Council planet behind. The universe was vast, but for the first time in history, humanity was not afraid of it. The galaxy had crossed Earth's border, and now, Earth owned the night.